Perpetuate. Our topic for today is goal setting and planning for the future. And we have two very distinguished gentlemen to present the program to you today. First, we're going to call on Elmer Sheffield, who is vice chairman of... No, I'm sorry, Darrell is vice chairman. Excuse me. Sorry, excuse me. He's in charge of whatever vice we might have in hand. But he is owner and producer of ESP Records, and he's been calling for 18 years. He lives in Pensacola, Florida, and a heck of a good caller and a heck of a nice guy. And would you welcome Elmer Sheffield, Jr.?
That was close. Actually, I live in Tallahassee. I moved.
I said Pensacola.
Yeah. Would you like to say it again?
It's on tape. I think you should get it.
I should correct that. He's from Tallahassee, Florida.
Thank you. I know some people from Pensacola, and they're nice folks. Today, our program, as John said, concerns goal setting and planning for the future. And when they asked me about doing this, my wife, I saw her come in a while ago, she said, "That's the wrong person, because I never plan for anything, really. It just hopefully happens, I suppose, along the way. But I do know things that we're supposed to do, and so I'm going to just kind of hit some high spots of things that I feel like may be of some help to you. And then I'm sure Tony and John will have something to add, and then at the end of the program, I'm sure we'll have some time for you to, if we miss some things and you'd like to ask us some questions, maybe we can give you the right answers. Talking about goal setting, we have to, of course, first of all, realize that we have to deal with both short-range goals and also long-range goals. When we start talking about short-range goals, and we want to start off, or I'd like to talking about each one of us just as an individual caller calling for some little club or some big club somewhere. Most of us are involved with classes. If you're going to be responsible for teaching a class, you need to set a goal as far as, for instance, how many numbers should we strive for? You may not make your goal, but at least have a goal set so that you can say, well, we're going to try for 12 couples this year, or 20 couples, or whatever. But have some kind of a goal set, and hopefully you can make your goal. And then along the same thing, talking of classes, how many of these people can I keep after I get them in class? And of course, there again, it requires you setting some kind of a goal that I'm not going to lose but one couple, maybe 2 couples, maybe nobody. But you need to have this kind of in your game plan. Set some goals. If you're a club caller, there are a lot of responsibilities that we have as club callers, and even though I am, I suppose, considered by some people to be a national caller, I'm also a club caller at home, and I have a club program, and there's certain goals and things that we have to set along the way and try to maintain those. Anytime you set goals, of course, you have to have some kind of checkpoints to tell, is this working? Am I achieving the goal or the plan that I set? And it's kind of like if you join Weight Watchers, which I probably need to do, but that's one I haven't got around to yet. But when you join that, they tell you weigh in, you weigh 200 pounds, and your goal is to be down to 150 pounds by X number of days or weeks or whatever, and you weigh in each week, and that's a way of, it's a checkpoint to tell if, am I achieving my goals. Talking about long-range goal planning, it's good if you, of course, most of us here again in my calling career. I just started out calling like I suppose most of us do because I enjoyed it. It was something that was fun, and I did it really with no goals in mind, other than I enjoyed singing calls, and I wanted to say I was a caller. But you need to. It'll help you if right away you can kind of decide how far do I want to go in square dance calling. Do you want to be just a good club caller? Do you want to call all the different levels of calling? If you do, then set a goal as to when do you want to achieve each one of these things. Do I want to be one of the best plus level callers in the country by 2 years from now, 1 year from now, or 6 months from now if you're real smart? But set a goal and work toward that goal. It's good to know your weaknesses, and most of us don't have any, but somebody will probably tell you along the way that you have something that you need to work on, whether it be in your patter presentation or whether it be with your singing. If you're interested in the singing aspect of calling, how good do you want to be? Set a goal for how good can I be, and if it takes outside help, if it takes voice lessons or whatever, have this goal set that I'm going to achieve this by a certain time, and work at it. Put some real work into it. If you want to become a full-time caller or a so-called national caller, it's certainly something that most people can achieve. But it takes setting a goal, and it takes working towards it. It helps, of course, to have some talent, but here again, Tony and I made it. And
you really think so?
Well, I thought we did. We tell each other we did. Keep in mind that square dance calling is a skill. It's not something that, like I say, we all pick up that microphone the first time to get up and do our singing call, and the people clap and tell us how good we are and how great we did, even though we probably were terrible. But it is a skill, and it requires a lot of work, and I'm sure all of you have already found that out, no matter how long you've been in this business. But you have to set goals for yourself. You got to check to see, am I gaining, or am I standing in the same spot that I was in, a year or two ago? Briefly, a lot of people ask those of us who are in the recording business, what does it take, or how do we become recording artists as such? If you have a real strong desire for this, then go for it. Set your goal that I am going to be a recording star, so that people will bow down to me when they see me come by, and they will say, "This guy is great." That's my goal. I'm still working toward that. But set a goal if that's what you want to do. There's lots of ways to get into the recording business. There's established record labels that have been around for years. There's new ones coming in every day. And you can even start your own. Lord help you if you do. Yes, and it's a quick get-rich program. See me after the program, and I'll explain to you how much money you can make in the record business. But if you have a desire for that, in all honesty, go for it. Set yourself a goal that this is what I want to do, and you can do it. When I started out calling, there again, I was like most callers. At the first year or so, I had really no goals other than I enjoyed what I was doing, and it was fun. And then after a while, I did realize that I wanted to do other things with my calling, and I began to set some goals that I wanted to achieve, and I pursued those goals until a lot of them I was able to accomplish. Last thing I'd like to say is just a little statement in that all of us as leaders should be able to put back into any activity, and especially the square dancing activity, as much as we take out, or maybe even a little bit more. But set a goal as to how you can help square dancing, how you can help CALLERLAB along the way. no matter whether you're a big name caller already or a brand new caller or somewhere in between, it takes every one of us to make this whole program work. And regardless of the goals you set for yourself, keep in touch with the whole activity and listen to what people are saying, and you'll get better and better, I'll guarantee you. But the main thing is, don't just go through your calling career thinking that any day now it's going to happen, because it takes some work, and you have to set goals for yourself. And if you set those goals and you work towards them, I'll guarantee you that in most cases that it will happen. And like I say, after John and Tony finish what they have to say, we'll entertain questions from you. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elmer. And I can remember early in Elmer's career that he did not sit on the sidelines and simply wait for this thing to happen to him. He went out and sought the knowledge that he needed and asked questions and went wherever was necessary to get the help that he needed to further his calling career, and has been very, very successful at doing it and has set some very good goals for himself. Next to talk to you is Tony Oxendine from Sumter, South Carolina, and he's been calling for 14 years, and he's a partner in the record company of Royal Records. And in looking at our panel here today, that perhaps I'm bringing some of the old type or older type ideas to you, in that I have been in the calling business for 32 years, and Elmer's been in for 18 years, and Tony is bringing in the younger aspect of our activity with 14 years of experience, which in most professions is a long time, and in ours it gives him a lot of knowledge and experience that many callers would desire to have. Would you welcome Tony Oxendine?
You know, John, you've been calling almost as old as I am. I'm 33. It's amazing. You know, it's so funny, none of us have corresponded other than I got a letter from John, saying, hey, looking forward to working with you. But it's amazing the number of points that Elmer had on his list that I had on mine. I was just, we talked about almost everything the same, and I'm going to repeat some of the things that Elmer said because I have it all written down here, and I don't want to change my order. It kind of surprised me, too, and they said, Tony, we need you to come and work on our goal session, because I worry about, things like lunch. And, really, the longer you're in any activity, I guess, the farther you get away from your goals, because when you first start out, you have such high hopes, and something happens along the way. And I don't know if it's just you think you get too good or you get frustrated, but things happen and you lose track of your goals. So one of the first things, especially if you're just starting in the business, and I'm going to speak strictly in terms of square dancing, and I'm probably going to say a lot of things that you already know, but you ought to have practical goals, have goals that are achievable. Otherwise, you have no sense of accomplishment. You have to feel like you're accomplishing your goals. So you need to have some short-range as well as long-range goals, and the long-range goals are going to be harder to achieve. But you also got to have, like I say, you got to have some that you can get and feel good about, and then work towards your next goal. Never be short of goals, because then you get stagnant, and then that's when you go downhill. Professionals say that you should write down your goals. Take a piece of paper and write them down. Number them. Put them where you can see them every day. I was reading Reader's Digest on an airplane and saw that just recently. And it said you should write down short-term goals in a spot where you can see them several times a day, maybe like on your refrigerator door. Just to kind of drive it home a little bit. Your longer range goals, maybe you should put them in a spot that you'll see once a day, just to remind you each day about them. That way you don't lose track of your goals, because then, as long as you have something to strive for, you'll probably continue to improve. And once your goals are set, you need to set a priority towards achieving that goal. Work towards it, not at the exclusion of anything else, but make that one of the top things on your list. And you should know that there are pitfalls along the way, as well as pitfalls because of your goals. A couple of examples. If perhaps you wanted to become a full-time traveling professional square dance caller and festival doer. One of the things that you sacrifice when you do that is you lose a home program. it's awful hard to keep a good home program when you're gone most of the time. So know that's going to happen to you. Also, the more you call, the more you're going to be away from home, the more you're going to be away from your husband or your wife or your kids, and it's going to be less free time for you. So you got to be willing to make sacrifices to achieve your goals. So I sat down and I wrote out a bunch of goals, and I just wrote them out in no specific order, and I came up with 11, and I'm going to talk about them, and I'm going to read them out in the way I wrote them down, and then I'm going to try to discuss them from the bottom up, essentially. A goal is to go full-time calling, or maybe travel full-time. Like Elmer said, record a record, or maybe build up your home base, maybe get a couple of other clubs instead of the one you got. Broaden your area of travel without maybe traveling full-time. Maybe work a statewide area or several state area. Become proficient at calling the next level above what you normally would call. If you normally call plus, try to work at learning to call advanced or whatever. Maybe one of your goals could be to increase your club membership. Or one of your goals could be as simple as to make enough money to buy you a good amplifier or a good microphone or tape player or whatever. Another goal could be to call at a national convention or attend CALLERLAB. Another goal would be to improve your method of calling or learn to sight call, learn to use a mental image. Or it could be just as simple as a beginning caller learning to call for a club, wanting to call for a club, which is the first one I'm going to talk about. If you have not been calling very long, although probably most everybody here has been calling for a while, but if your goal is to call for a club, what can you do to do it? Let's talk about how to make plans towards achieving that goal. I don't think things have changed any now than they were 14 years ago when I started calling, or 30 years ago when John started calling. One of the best ways to get people to see you is to visit clubs. Visit as many clubs as you can. When you go in, dance, introduce yourself to the caller, tell him that you're a caller, but don't bring your records in because that's kind of tacky. If he wants you to call, he'll ask you. But this way you get to do guest tips, and the people will get to hear you. And they'll get to know you, you'll get to know them, and the next thing you know, they may be wanting to hire you, to call an exhibition dance or something at a nursing home or something. Probably no pay, but in the beginning stage, I don't think you should worry about pay anyway. Another good thing to do to start with is to get you some business cards printed and give them to people. The Japanese are famous for business cards. Everybody in the world in Japan has a business card. It says what they do. And that's a neat thing because it gives, a lot of times people throw them away, but there's going to be a certain number of people that keep them. And one day they may be in a bind for a caller, and you get a telephone call, and pal, you're on your way. Or if all else fails, and nobody ever calls you, then go out and rent you a building. Put you out a flyer, and do your own. You may not have but one square, but then you're calling. And get your, that will give you a basis for a club. I don't think, when I came along, one of the first things they told you when you wanted to learn to be a caller was to teach a class. I don't think that's where we should start out, because that's where you can do the most damage. If you got an inexperienced caller, you can do some damage to some new folks, and you may put a bad taste in their mouth. I think classes should be left for guys that really know what they're doing. And then if you're going to do any damage, do it to the folks that are already damaged. Let them been dancing for a while and get those guys. Once you have a club or clubs, you might perhaps want to learn a different method of calling, like sight calling, mental image, or just basically improve whatever knowledge you have. The first thing you need to do, and this is probably one of the most important goals you could probably have in your calling career, is attend a good caller school. Because so many callers will tell you things that they don't know. They'll tell you things with authority. And they're maybe not trying to hurt you, but a lot of times they're wrong. The best thing to do is find a caller's college that has a CALLERLAB certified caller coach, because these guys have to go through some serious training. There's a very, very strenuous test they have to take, both verbal and written, to get certified. And you're pretty sure of getting a quality product. So many of the caller schools I've heard guys talk about going to caller school, and the caller there spent more time trying to sell them speakers or sell them records or sell them hardware lines that you don't need. If you want to become a caller, you want to learn the basic fundamentals. Most everybody wants to learn how to sight call, So find you a school that's got a knowledgeable caller. That would be a certified caller coach. Another good way is to check with some other different callers to find out if they went to one. Different caller schools specialize in different things. Jack Lasry does a caller school that deals primarily with sight calling. Cal Golden used to do caller schools that dealt quite a bit in showmanship and a lot of the intangibles connected with calling, such as how to dress, how to talk on the microphone, rather than so much of sight calling. Another goal you might want is to attend or call a national convention. Didn't take me long to figure out the answer to this one. All you do is spend $35 and send in your application. Check off caller, and you're there. That's the neat thing about the nationals is there's not supposed to be any. They don't differentiate between big name callers and anybody. So if you check your name off there, a caller, chances are you can call, and you got a good chance of calling at 8 o'clock on Saturday night to 1,000,000 squares, big crowd. Another goal you might want is to become proficient at calling higher levels. And one of the first things you need to do, I really believe that a caller, if he works primarily the plus level or the mainstream level, I think he should have a dancing knowledge of the level above. Not necessarily a calling level, but I think you should be able to dance the level above what you call, because it gives you such a nice insight. It gives you such more insight into the level that you're working. Not that you want to call plus material at a mainstream dance or advanced material at a plus dance, but if you know how to dance these other calls, it gives you so much more insight into your calling. You can put things together more that you wouldn't normally have thought of. So learn to dance the level before you ever try to call it. I've seen so many guys call things that if they tried dancing that mess they called, it wouldn't work. If a lot of callers ever danced the girl's part, we wouldn't have a lot of calls that we have. We wouldn't have had curly Q years ago. If a man had to spin under somebody's arm 3/4, we wouldn't have it. Probably wouldn't have thars either if they were on the end of it all the time trying to run to catch up. Another good thing to do is buy a book of definitions and learn it. There's several good books that cover, as well as CALLERLAB definitions. CALLERLAB has a guide of all the definitions through I think they just redid the C1, that give you the definitions. However, that doesn't really help you call it. There are some books that draw pictures for you, that show you the setup, where it starts, where it ends, what positions you can call it from, and all of those. And you could check with any of the girls up front could probably tell you some of the books. The next thing to do if you want to learn to call the next level is start you a class. I wanted to learn to call C1, and what I did was I have an A2 group at home, and I just took 6 couples out of my A2 group and invited them and said, hey, I want to learn C1. Would you guys like to learn to dance? And they said, okay. And so I'm working with 6 people that I know that won't get mad at me if I make mistakes or if I have to do something over and over and over again to get it through my head. That may help you out some if you can kind of handpick some folks just to get you started before you worry about taking anybody's money to teach them. If you don't know what you're doing and you try to teach people and you charge them for it, you're doing a real big injustice to both of you. Another goal might be to buy a new amp or something, a microphone, records. And that's kind of self-explanatory. The best way to do it is just, if you don't want to use your regular money that's from your job, if you don't call full-time, for those of you that are smart, you might want to just take a portion of your square dance income each time and sock it away. I'm amazed at the number of guys that don't realize how much money they make calling square dances. And that if you didn't call square dancing, people say I'd do it for a hobby. I don't think very few of us do it for a hobby, even those of you that don't call full-time, because you don't realize how much your standard of living has changed because of the income from your square dancing. Even if it's only $50 a week, you got one club that pays you $50 a week. You multiply that out times 50 weeks in a year, and that's $2,500, and that's a down payment on a car. Or that's you a new Hilton, or a new Clinton, whatever you want to buy. But anyway, you can always budget your money, your square dance income that way, and you don't have to worry about going in your other pocket. Another goal could be how to increase your club membership. I think the best way to increase club membership is to have a class. In South Carolina, I noticed it's kind of funny. We have several. We don't have many square dancers in South Carolina. Our state convention had 100 squares for the entire state convention. However, we're blessed that we have about 5 square dance halls in the state, and really nice halls, several with floating wood floors, air conditioned. I'm amazed at the number of times I go in there and see a flyer on the wall advertising beginner lessons. To me, it sounds stupid. Anybody at a square dance hall is already going to be square dancing. They're not going to need to take beginner lessons. Advertise your lessons, somewhere throughout maybe the radio or newspaper, TV if you can, and get you up you'll entice some new folks in that way. And along with that same line, if you wanted to build up as well as class size or club size, if you wanted to expand your program somewhat and get maybe several clubs call for several clubs, I think this should be a major goal for any caller, is to work on their home base. Whether it's 1 club or 5 clubs, is to work on them. You should offer a level for the entire area. That means if you're going to have... Another thing I hear, and it's one of my pet peeves, is that I hear people have mainstream lessons every year and their club dances plus. I don't understand how you can do that. But I hear it. I hear people tell me That's another subject. Hush. Anyway, if you offer mainstream classes, give them a mainstream place to dance. Don't just get them out of mainstream lessons and try to teach them plus just because your club does. Take them and give them a place to dance mainstream. For those that want to dance plus, offer them a plus club. For those people that want to dance something more than plus, offer them advance. But offer them at different times. Have you a Monday night mainstream lessons, Tuesday night mainstream club, Wednesday night plus program, Thursday night advanced program, and you'll find out that you're busy 5 or 6 days a week right in your area, and you're making your folks happy. You've given them all a place to dance without pushing them. Another one of your goals might be to call full time. The best way to do that is to go right back to the one we just talked about and work on your home program. Get your home program successful, and if you're working 5, 6 nights a week, that's pretty near full time. It's rough. I don't have a regular job. And for those of you that, I've got friends that work, 5, 6, 7 days a week calling, and then work a 40-hour job. I couldn't do that anymore. But anyway, that's the good way to start calling full-time, is to work yourself out in a local basis, and then expand your horizons. If you want to get other clubs, you may have to go 40 miles to a new city. But how do you travel a broader area? That's probably one of the biggest questions I get. New callers ask me all the time. They want to become a full-time traveling festival caller and festival doer. That's what they want to do. That's their goal. Why? I don't know. But they want it to happen yesterday. They want it to happen immediately, and it's not. It's a real slow process if you want to become a traveling caller. The way to do it, I think, if you want to become known in a broader area, the first way would be to attend other club dances, association dances, state conventions, especially association and state conventions, because there you're exposed to a lot of people from a lot of different areas. So you may be from Dubuque, Iowa, and call the association dance in Dubuque, and somebody from 50 or 75 or 100 miles down the road in Fairfield, Iowa, may have heard you, and they said, okay, we'll hire you for our club. And then you go to Fairfield, Iowa, and somebody from 75 miles down the road is there, and they hear you, they like you, and they hire you, and all of a sudden you've broadened your horizons by 200 miles. And it just keeps adding on, but it happens over a long period of time. It doesn't happen real fast. And if you're going to try to go out and call for other folks, naturally you're going to have to charge them. And callers are just really hesitant to talk about fees. They either lie or don't talk about them. But make your fee attractive to the people that want to hire you. You're not going to be able to get the money that Ken Bauer could get. You're not known. Take that into consideration. You're going to be getting publicity and exposure out of this thing, and that's worth money in the long run. So remember to be nice to them. If you take care of them, they'll take care of you on the way back. And you can, if you come in this year and get $10 for the dance and they hire you back and you have twice the crowd, they may pay you $20 next year. Always remember, though, regardless of the size of the crowd, is to try to give 100%. Whether you have 2 squares or 400. And it's a lot easier to call to a large crowd than it is a small crowd. But when the people are at your dance, you owe it to them. And for those of you that might want to travel full-time and just broaden your horizons totally and start going coast to coast and everywhere, hope you got a lot of money saved up. because you go hungry. It's not all the glamour and glory that you think it is, because most of you only see the traveling caller come in and just pop in, make his appearance, work 3 hours, and take a big paycheck home and leave. But you don't see the fact that we drive 100,000 miles a year, 75,000 miles a year, fly twice that amount, and it ain't all it's cracked up to be. I enjoy it. I enjoy my traveling. One of the things that, when Elmer brought it up a while ago, when he said the, quote, national caller, I like it because he put it in quotes, because I don't think that word is quite what we need. That's a word that if being a full-time professional caller means anything, it's too easy to attach the word national to your name. And if you are, you don't need to do it. It'll happen. And you won't need to tell anybody. It'll just happen to you. One of my first goals when I got into calling, I wanted to be a full-time caller. When I started out, the first time I heard Beryl Maine call a dance was the first big-time caller I ever heard. And I said, this guy's great. And a few weeks later, I heard Dick Jones, who, in my opinion, is probably the finest caller ever to set foot to a microphone as far as entertaining the dancer. And I said, hey, I want to be like these guys, become a full-time caller, and I want to record records. You know, these guys do these records, and I had Beryl Maine records and Dick Jones records. And so one of my first goals was to record a record. And I was real lucky in the fact that about a year when you heard me, I was trying to broaden my base. I traveled about 300 miles and went to a festival and paid to dance just because they had a Callorama on Saturday afternoon. So I brought my records and called it the Callorama.
Both of them.
Both of them. I had two. You're right. You laugh. He's serious. Elmer was doing the festival. I'd never met him before, but he just happened to be walking through the hall during the Callorama, and he just happened to hear my singing call. At the time, Darryl McMillan was looking for somebody on, a young caller, and there was just a lot of ifs that happened at one time, and it worked out well for me. That's not the normal case. You got, just like Elmer said, you got a couple options about if one of your goals is to record a record. Several labels for a fee will let you record a record. Or if you've got a lot of money, you can start your own record company. If you just don't mind not having that money for a while. Yeah, because right now the record industry is, the waters are real muddy. There's 9,412 record labels, and I'm guilty of it in the fact that a couple of years ago I wanted to do my own label, and we did it, and I muddied the waters even further. And maybe some of you guys will, and that'd be great. Good luck to you. You need it. It ain't easy. But I hate to see some things happen. I try to explain to callers when they talk to me, because one of the first things that happens if you start your own record label, you find guys come up that want to record for you. And it'd be nice to put everybody in the world on your label, but you can't, because the record industry is a business. We're trying to get our money back out of it that we've put into it. And if there's a point in your career, if your goal is to become a recording artist, if there's a point in your career that you get to the point that you can add something to a record label, if you can be beneficial to the record label, chances are they'll come to you. And it's a little easier that way. You don't have to fork out as much as your money. In closing up, my closing statement is so much like Elmer's, it's unreal. I think the number one goal for us in this activity is to try to make the whole square dance activity a little better off, because all of us, we're all one part of it. And if we can make the square dance picture a little brighter because we happen to pass through it, either through calling or dancing or somehow through our leadership, that should be one of your major goals. Thank you.
I should have mentioned earlier that this session is being recorded, and so everything we say is permanent record. And thank you very much, Tony. We will give you some time for questions here in just a few minutes. As I said earlier, our theme this year is to educate and perpetuate, which is what we're doing, not only in this session, but in all of the sessions that we have taking place here at CALLERLAB this year. Educate means to develop or train the mind by formal schooling or instruction, to train for some special purpose. These are all fitting together with the things that both Elmer and Tony have said. Some synonyms are enlighten, indoctrinate, inform, instruct, nurture, and train. To educate is to communicate knowledge. It is also to draw out or develop mental powers. To nurture is to furnish the care and substance necessary for physical, mental, and moral growth. Nurture is a more tender word than educate. Perpetuate means to make perpetual or enduring. Perpetual means continuing unlimited in time, ceaseless, being in bloom all year, endless, enduring and eternal, lasting forever or for an indefinitely long time. To cause to continue or be remembered. Our session today and our topic today of goal setting and planning for the future. A goal is a point toward which effort is directed. The objective point that one is striving to reach. The goal of one's ambition. A goal is aspiration, determination, endeavor, inclination, intent, purpose, or reason. The goal is what you move or work toward. A goal is something that you can grasp as the reward for your labors. A dream is not a goal. A dream is something that you want very badly. A goal is something that you can attain. Don't set your goals so high that you simply can't attain them. Set you some goals that you can reach, that you know you can do within a specified period of time. Dream as much as you want. Dream everything that you possibly wish to dream. But don't tell anybody what your dreams are, because somebody will constantly be trying to steal it away from you or tell you that you can't do it. How many times have you mentioned that my dream is to do so-and-so, and the person standing right next to you laughs and says, you've got to be out of your mind. You'll never make it. Therefore, I don't tell anybody what my dreams are or what they have ever been. I don't mind telling what my goals have been, and I established some of those goals many years ago, and I achieved almost all of them, and I'm very glad of that. One of my goals was, after CALLERLAB established a caller coach program, was to become a certified caller coach. And to me, that was the PhD of becoming a square-inch caller, and I achieved that goal. A plan is an arrangement of means or steps for the attainment of some objective, a mode of action. A plan relates to details of form, structure, and action. A plan is belief. Set goals and have a definite plan with the purpose of assured success, and you won't fail. You will win. Dr. Robert Schuller said, if you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. As Tony and Elmer both have said, make your plans and make your goals and set your goals. Write them down where you can see them. Remind yourself constantly of what those goals are. Just have a plan. It doesn't make any difference if you write it on a paper bag. Just do it. Make one. We're planning for the future. The future is the time yet to come. Planning for the future is similar to making a will. A will decides what you wish to leave to someone. Is what we as square-inch callers are doing today what we wish to leave? Is this the way we want it? If not, what are we willing to do about it? I want to leave behind something better than what was left to me, if I possibly can. Things that were left to me personally from such great people in square dancing and square dance calling as Ray Smith, Manning Smith, Joe Lewis, Herb Gregerson, and I haven't even gotten out of Texas yet. Bob Van Antwerp, Bob Osgood, Lee Helsel, Arnie Cronenberger, Bruce Johnson, Ed Gilmore, Les Gocher, Al Brundage, and Johnny Leclerc. These people left things to me personally that I shall always be grateful for, and I hope that I can leave something better than what I found. I'm very glad to have had the pleasure of knowing these people and what a future they left to me and to us. Let's don't spoil it. Let's make it better. Let's do everything that we can as callers to make the situation better. And that's what we're trying to do here at Reno this year. And hopefully we'll be able to accomplish these tasks and these goals that we have set for ourselves. They can be done. I said a long time ago, when CALLERLAB was being criticized for some of the things that CALLERLAB had done, and of course when I say CALLERLAB, I look in the mirror and say, John, you are CALLERLAB. And we are. We made the decisions. CALLERLAB didn't. And CALLERLAB is made up of people. But I said several years ago that CALLERLAB was a child, and we didn't expect children to make adult-type decisions. CALLERLAB is now becoming an adult. We are now in our 15th convention. We're now just beginning to get to the point to where we can make intelligent decisions, which I think we're ready to do, and I think is going to happen. So look toward the future as to how good it's going to be, and I promise you it will be. I would like to take this opportunity now to thank Tony and Elmer for being a part of this program today, and we want to open it up for questions or comments from any of you. And as I said, we are being taped, and so we don't have a floor microphone, and I'm sorry that we don't, but I will repeat your question or comment for the tape. Anyone, please? I know we did not answer all the questions or comments that you might have in your mind. Yes?
One of the first questions that I'm thinking of is an ethical question. What do you do when you're booked with your regular club, your dances, and we're from Southern California, my wife is the primary caller, and you're booked 3 years ahead? Festivals do not book 3 years ahead. What do you do when a festival calls and wants to book you, let's say, 1 year ahead, and you've got a book and you really want to do the festival?
The question has been asked, which is an ethical question. If you're already booked in your calendar and a festival calls and wants you to call at their festival and it's something that you really want to do, what do you do? Elmer, Tony, would either of you like to come to the microphone, please?
If you're speaking of being booked for a club or well, just personal comment. I think if it's something that's a year in advance and you're talking about being booked now for a major festival, most clubs, if you're on good terms with them, would probably be willing to, if you explain the situation, would probably release you from that date and get another caller. Now, talking about ethics, my feeling would be if the club did not want to release you, then your obligation would be to the club who booked you 3 years ago or whatever, even though you wanted to do this big festival that's going to pay you $1,000, But most of the time, if you go, if it's a smaller type thing, and you explain the situation and you say, I'd really like to do this dance, and it'd be good for me, and most of the time they would either change a date or they'll say, well, as long as we have a caller to fill in, but you do have an obligation to that first commitment, as far as I'm concerned.
I agree with what Elmer said. Does anybody else have any comments about that particular thing? In the back?
One thing you can do, if you talk to that club or whatever, you might ask them their schedule for that year, and any of the other callers in that schedule, you
In most cases, I found that that they'll trade off a date with you or something of that nature. Any other question?
John?
Yes, down here.
Booking dances down the road. What is your feeling about a club hired you 300 miles from home? You book a dance in between and say, hey guys, I'll do it for the gate. I would rather, or half the gate, split or gate 40%, 60%. Do you run into any bad relations there where you're calling a dance maybe for somebody for $100 that's 400 miles from home, but on your way you say, hey, rather than stay the night in the motel, I'll split the gate with you. We'll do a special dance at your place that night on Friday night, and then go call a big dance on Saturday.
The question has been asked if you book to call a dance at some location that they're paying a good fee for you to call, and you have the opportunity to pick up a dance in between at a lesser fee, or split the gate type situation, a pickup type dance. Should you or should you not do it?
My only question would be, did you have, is the first club paying you travel expenses? Or just have a calling fee?
That's the pitfall of some of the things you get into.
Well, you've got two answers, actually. In some situations, if a club is paying your expenses, airfare, if you have to fly in, or if they're paying your mileage, it may not be real fair to the club if you do a dance 50 miles down the road from them, because then you hurt both crowds. However, if you're driving through and then the club just happens to be paying you, $50 for a Saturday night, and you can come down 100 miles south of them and do a Friday night for $25 and a Thursday night right 100 miles south of that for another $25. That's the way you get started. If you wanted to travel, that's the way you start out traveling. If it wasn't for pickup dances, I'd probably starve to death. That's the way I do all of my touring. I base it around weekends. Now, some weekends will not let you. They'll have it in their contract that you can't call within a specific area, specific amount of time. In which case, then you're out in the cold. Answer it.
A lot of times in a situation like that, if that group that's at the end of the line is paying your travel expenses, as Elmer said, and you pick up a dance in between and don't let them know anything about it, that's not fair to those people on the end, because they're paying the entire bill and you're picking up gravy in between. They're going to find out about it sooner or later. I promise you that, because nearly every incident that I've ever heard about, they found out about it, and when they find out about it, they won't hire you back. You've lost a deal down the road, and they can do you more damage than you can ever do good for what little bit of money you might pick up in between. Now, what I have done in situations like that is to tell that club or that group to contact the group on the end. You contact them and you tell them what you want to do. You work it out with them, make sure it's all right with them, and then I'll come in and do it. Otherwise, I'm headed for the end, and I won't stop in between. I think that is an ethical situation that we as callers must maintain. We're getting off the subject a little bit into ethical situations rather than goal setting and planning, but
John?
Yes, Rod.
I didn't have a question, but I did have a comment. In the past, I've gone to some other courses that involve goal setting. All three of you had tied in the common idea of setting short-range and long-range goals, as well as setting them, making them achievable. And I think, Tony, you had brought out about know your obstacles. One obstacle you're going to hit is yourself. And by that I mean, when you take your long-range goals, I found this works for me. Break your long-range goals up into short, achievable, short-range goals. Like, for instance, if you say, hey, I'm a mainstream caller. This is the case with me. I'm a mainstream caller. I want to learn plus. I take a look at that and say, my God, I can't do all the choreography I want to do right now with mainstream. How the heck am I ever going to memorize this whole plus list and get proficient at it? Well, you can say, for this month or for the next 2 months, I'll concentrate on maybe calling the first 5 calls. Set it achievable, because human nature being what it is, you set these long-range goals and you don't achieve them, you're going to get frustrated, you're going to give up, and you'll never hit your long-range goal. So what I've found in the past is breaking the long-range goals up into short, achievable steps, and that works for me anyway. And I've heard other people come out and advocate that. I tried it. All I can say is, maybe it won't work for you, but I find it works for me because I know myself. I give up easy if I don't get some success pretty quick.
Ron Bradish is from Tokyo, Japan. Looks it, doesn't he? Looks it. You're in the service there, are you not, Rod? Air Force? Right. I met Rod over there a few years ago. One of my goals some 30-odd years ago was, which is a long-range goal that I had, was to be on the panel with Tony and Elmer. To have to put up with this noise. No, truly, one of my goals a little over 30 years ago was to retire from my regular job by the time I was 50 years old. I didn't tell anybody. I kept it to myself. I didn't quite make it. I retired last month at the age of 52 from the job that I had had for 32 years and 10 months. I wanted to become a full-time caller at that point, so it took me 32 years and 10 months to get good enough to become a full-time caller. But that was one of my goals. That was a dream that I had, and it was a dream goal, and I made it come true as close as I could. Question, Becky?
About goals for full-time callers after they get sick of traveling, find it pretty strenuous to do that much driving. Now, a 33-year-old shouldn't be thinking of that right now. But the traveling, the people who have traveled, there'll be a time when they would rather do less traveling. What would their goals be at that?
The question is, and I'll let Tony answer this because he's headed in that direction right now, that after you become one of the full-time a full-time caller and living this glorious life of a square dance caller and making all of this money and doing all of these things and going to all of these places. Nearly every place I've been in the world looks the same to me. That's the inside of an airplane, the inside of a motel, and the inside of a square dance hall. And I've been all over the world. But they begin to all look just alike after a while. But after you've become a full-time caller and done all the traveling and done all the things that you wanted to do, and you begin to get tired of it, the question is, what have you planned and what is your goal at that point, Tony?
Wow. I'm going to start a body shop and become a caller coach. I really... Consciously, I haven't thought about it. I guess subconsciously, I have, because I don't abuse myself the way I did when I first started traveling. I would get in my car and drive forever, and I didn't think a thing of getting in my car and driving for 10 or 12, 15 hours to get to a dance, or call a dance and finish the dance at 11 o'clock and drive until 5 in the morning, sleep for 2 hours, and do it again. Art, Greg, y'all wouldn't know nothing about that, would you? And I got too old for that mess. There's a point that you become selective in what you do, and I've slowed. I travel probably as many miles as I ever did. I fly a lot more than I used to. I'll probably do something. I have no goal for that, John. Maybe I could become Hell, I'll just start my own caller lab. I really don't have a goal. I've never thought about it that much. I can't imagine what it would be like not to do it. I look at Marshall Flippo. He's been traveling for 70 years. And still probably the biggest draw in the country. I don't think there's any caller that'll outdraw him. People just love him. And so maybe I'll be around 50 years and still driving around a little bit. I don't know. Maybe open up my own square dance retirement village.
Right.
I guess. I like the body shop.
Just a piece of advice in that regard, Tony. If you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. And so you must plan for that end. And I'm sure in the back of your mind you have already begun to do so. Do something. Save your money. You'll need it someday. And I am realizing that right now in the job that I have had for all these years that paid good money, and I am now retired, and your income is drastically reduced. Drastically reduced. Begin to prepare for that day. And some say, I can't save any money. I don't make enough money to save. I don't agree with that. If you don't save but 25 cents a month, that's more than nothing. And it will begin to grow. And you have to set it aside for that rainy day. But Elmer's wife lost it all in the slot machines last night. The 25 cents he gave her to have a good time with. But you must plan for that day, because it will come. And for some of us, it comes sooner than you might think. How many in the room, I know there's several of them, but I'd like for everybody else to see, how many of you in here are full-time Square Dance callers? Please hold up your hand. There's several. Look around the room. You can see who they are. And some of them are pretty young, and they're making their living off of this game. And it is a game. And if you screw it up, you won't have it to make a living off of. So that's the goal, and one of the plans that you've got to have is to take care of it, and it'll take care of you. I promise you that. A question in the back.
I do have a question. Well, that's a comment. And that is, as I go throughout this activity, there's one person that I really rely on, and that is to help with my goal. Because with her, I can't cheat. And the other half. We sit down and try and plan or set goals where we're going to be and how we're going to do it. And without her input, I'm only half.
Get some help with your goal setting. Is that what you're saying? From your partner, your spouse, your friend, your buddy, somebody say, here are my goals, will they work? Go to somebody that has been successful in this activity and say, how did you do what you do? Don't go ask Marshall Flippo, because he won't tell you nothing. He says his only comment has always been, I don't know.
I don't think he does.
And I don't think Marshall, now, I know Marshall knows what made him a success, but he is humble enough that he won't say so. And I admire the man greatly, and I think everybody else does too.
Besides that, he don't want y'all to know.
But, besides that, he doesn't want everybody else to know. That's what Elmer said. But there are people in this activity that will share with you at no charge. You can't believe the amount of information that you can get for nothing. All of these names that I read off to you a while ago, I've never paid them a penny for all the information that they have given me all these years. And the Square Dance caller that thinks he can make it on his own, he or she on his own in this business, is fooling themselves totally. You cannot do it by yourself. You've got to have the help along the way from a lot of people. And you've got to give before you can ever receive. And if you don't give anything to the activity, you'll never get anything back out of it. Question? Comment from anyone? Please. We're wide open. We're ahead of schedule. Would you please join me in thanking Tony and Elmer? Wait a minute. Another question or comment? I'm sorry, I missed somebody. Excuse me.
Well, I just know that comment that Tony, he's the one that made it so hard for us to call Phoenix, Arizona. Because when we had CALLERLAB there, they interviewed him on TV. Yeah. And we still get it every time we go out to call Square Dance.
I got blamed for that.
$106,000 interview.
Oh.
Wait a minute. I need the microphone.
Now, wait a minute. This is on tape now. Do you want it on back on tape? Okay. The comment has been made that it made it a little bit difficult for the callers in the Phoenix, Arizona area, because when CALLERLAB was there 3 years ago, that Tony was interviewed on national television.
Yeah.
And supposedly made the comment that Square Dance callers make in the neighborhood of $250,000 a year. Now, Tony is going to rebut.
Rebuttal. I never said that. The guy that was interviewing me asked me just point blank how much money I made, and I told him I made enough to keep me out of trouble. There was somebody else told him that traveling callers can make $1,000 a night. And he told me that. I said, maybe so. But I never, and I got blamed for that. But I have a copy of the tape that I will be more than happy to send you. Because I really, honest to goodness, never told him that anybody makes $250,000 a year. It's probably, John, Elmer.
3 years to get over. It's too late.
Yeah, well, but I mean, there's sure maybe, John, you make $250,000 a year?
No way.
But I didn't say, I really crossed my heart, I didn't say that.
Okay. Sit down.
I'll get over here.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from anyone? Yes, sir.
My name is Michael from St. Eagle. I think one of the things that you mentioned in goal setting is to purchase books on goal setting or motivational books. And you yourself need to get pumped up. Like coming to this CALLERLAB convention, you get pumped up. You get motivated. You get motivated, then you'll set a goal and you'll go for it. But you need to keep the excitement in yourself. And also, it would not hurt to also to use God's help. Because He helps also.
Getting help from any source that's available is extremely important. And the comment that he made was to get books or go to seminars or whatever is necessary from motivational speakers and seminars and everything of this nature. I have attended a number of those myself, and you'll be surprised and amazed at how much it can pump you up. Coming to CALLERLAB every year pumps me up again, and just being here means a whole lot to me, and getting God's help as well. You bet.